Hi everyone, welcome back to Blueprint DIY, where we remake our clothes to be just as unique as us. Today I am here to talk about sewing machine settings and needles and just talk about sewing machines. As we open up the new Joann 100M sewing machine. This is a very beginner sewing machine, and it actually is on sale at Joann's for $100 right now. I just got it. So we're going to open it and talk about sewing machines. All right. The first thing I noticed right off the bat is that is the green on it. Green is my favorite color. I personally don't particularly care for color on my sewing machines unless the whole sewing machine is one color, but it's cute. And also it's essentially has everything that you need in order to, start sewing as a beginner. Now, it does have a 4-step buttonhole. I have been very vocal about how I feel about that. I would rather do a lot of weird, not weird, but a lot of, I don't know. I would rather do a lot of things than use a 4-step buttonhole. So on this channel, we use a lot of straight stitch. Okay, first impression, it's bigger than the picture makes it look. Well, no, let me pull it out and see before I say that. Nope, it's exactly as big as I thought it was. It is exactly as big as I thought it was. This is a mini sewing machine. It's lightweight, but not as light as some sewing machines, which I know some people look for lightweight sewing machines, but the lighter it is, the probably it won't last as long. So yeah, it does thread like a normal sewing machine, so that's good. Has the pedal, power, and it has a bottom loading bobbin. So a lot of Janome machines have this. Let's see, it was supposed to come with some accessories. I don't see them. Maybe I missed it. Let's look. Yeah, I missed it. It's right here. It comes with a few accessories like buttonhole foot, zipper foot, and some needles. So the essentials of what you need. So let's talk about some settings on this one in particular. If you have a beginner, like a sewing machine like this. Sewing machines like these differ from full-size sewing machines in that you do not pick your stitch width or your stitch length. All your stitches are dictated by one dial, and you can choose, like what stitch you want to go to just by turning this dial. So you get 3 straight stitches. One is small, medium, and large. You get 3 zigzag stitches, small, medium, and large. And then you get some other stitches. These stitches I never use, just for you guys' information in all my years. Yeah, never use them. Like I said, 4-step buttonhole. This is the explanation of a 4-step buttonhole and why I hate it. You're gonna do step 1 to do one side of your buttonhole. And then you're gonna turn it to this stitch to do the top of the buttonhole. Then you go to 3 to do the other side of your buttonhole. And then you'll turn back to this stitch to do the bottom of your buttonhole. To me, I could just put it on a zigzag stitch and make it manual. It's the same thing. So this is almost irrelevant. Like I don't know. I really don't like it. But if you're never going to do a buttonhole, what do you care? It does come pre-threaded. So it has a little bobbin of thread here. And it's all the way through to the needle. Let's plug it up. All right, we turn it on. It has a light, which is great because some mini sewing machines don't have lights. Put the presser foot down. Let's choose medium. straight stitch, and we're sewing. Let's switch it to oh, what is up? Sorry. Okay, we're gonna switch it to a zigzag stitch. Another zigzag stitch. Big zigzag stitch. Let's try this stitch. All right, lastly, we're gonna do this stitch. All right, the sound of it is not bad at all. Does it have a thread cutter? Yep, it has a thread cutter on the side, right there. So it has all the essentials of a sewing machine. So that's the straight stitch. Let's pull on it, make sure it's not good and firm. It's a good and firm stitch. Small zigzag, medium zigzag, large zigzag. That was that one that looks like a heartbeat. And then this is that other one. Cute little decorative stitch. Like I said, I never use them, but they come on pretty much every sewing machine. So let's talk about tension on your sewing machine. This is going to be pretty much the same on all sewing machines, even if they only have this dial. They'll have the tension. It might be on the top of the sewing machine. This one, you can see it's marked with these lines. The tension is normal in between 3 and 5. If you change the tension, you'll see those lines go away. Up to 9, as most sewing machines, and all the way down to 0. Most sewing machines will have some indication as what is the baseline for your tension for that sewing machine, and this one is 4. Most sewing machines are in between 3, somewhere in between 3 and 5. Now, the tension on your sewing machine is the tightness of your stitch. So how tight is that stitch going to hold? And it's kind of counterintuitive, but when the number is lower, that is a tighter stitch. When the number is higher, that is a very loose stitch. Okay, so number 9 would be where you would put it if you were going to make a gathering stitch or a basting stitch. That's the very loosest stitch that you can do, and it makes it, so that you could pull it through easy if you decide to take it out or if you want to do a gather. I have 2 sewing machines to show you on. I have the Brother Strong and Tough, which is one of my favorite heavy duty sewing machines. And then I also have the Burnett B37, which is one of my favorite beginner sewing machines for several reasons. And we'll talk about that in settings. This Brother Strong and Tough is a mechanical machine. And mechanical, when I say mechanical, it means it has no computerized parts. So it's purely what we call a dumb machine. On this one, you can see the tension is up here. This is the stitch width. You will not need to use this on straight stitches. Straight stitches don't have a width because they're just straight. So this doesn't matter for anything, for any straight stitch. Then right here, you have the stitch length. This dictates how long the stitch is, the distance between the needle going down one time and the needle going down the next time. So that's that. Here on this sewing machine, you have all of your different stitches. Regardless, I don't care what sewing machine it is. I typically only use the buttonhole, the straight stitch, and the zigzag stitch. If it does have a stretch stitch, that would be great. I'll show you what a stretch stitch looks like in a second, but this one doesn't have it. So let's talk about settings. Like I said, typically on most sewing machines, when you're doing your regular stitches, no matter what the stitch is, you're going to be in between 3 and 5. You can play around between these numbers on your sewing machine. If you see that bobbin thread, the stitch on the bottom, if it's looking loose or tight, you can play around in between 3 and 5 to tweak that just right. So say for instance, we're doing a zigzag stitch. Say for instance, we're doing a zigzag stitch, which on this machine is number 3. We will have a stitch width. This dictates how wide the zags are on the zigzag stitch. So higher is wider, lower is closer together. 0 would be a straight stitch. And it's wise to, like, when you're doing a zigzag stitch, to maybe sew on, just a scrap piece of fabric. Yeah, those are your basic settings. Any decorative stitch, you're gonna have to figure out what width you want. Now let's go to this sewing machine. This is the Burnett B37. This is a computerized machine. It's a basic computerized machine, but it is computerized because you see this screen right here. It's a computer. So for this one, you pick your stitches right here. This is the stitch width, like we talked about on the other machine, and this is the stitch length. That stretch stitch that I was telling you about looks like this. Is number 4 here. It's a shallow zigzag. So you can, for stretchy materials, you can just use a zigzag stitch, but I do like when sewing machines do have that stretch stitch, that shallow zigzag stitch. This one also has several different buttonholes other than just a regular buttonhole. So I find that, actually 3, 1, 2. Oh no, that's, I guess, a kind of buttonhole. And then the keyhole buttonhole. So that's cool. Yeah, this is just a little guide that goes down here to let you know. Let's see, say for instance, you were sewing something stretchy and you wanted to replicate a shallow zigzag stitch, but you don't have that stitch. Then you would move your sewing machine. This one, the regular zigzag is on 5. So we would go to 5. Then we would go over to the stitch width, and we want the stitch width for stretchy to be as skinny as, like we want it to be really skinny. So we're going to pick 1.5, but we also want it to be kind of long. We do not want the zigzags to be super close together. We don't need them to be that way. So we'll go over to the stitch length and increase that to like 3.5. So now we can sew our collars, we can sew our armholes, our sleeves on, and they will remain stretchy. I'll show you a difference. We're just gonna sew this. So now that is a shallow zigzag stitch, and I can still, it wasn't stretchy in that direction anyway. Okay, let me sew it this way. That's too funny. There are materials that are stretchy in one direction and not in the other. So now that still has some stretch without popping the stitches. If I go over to a straight stitch, you hear that? Now the stitches are popping because it's a straight stitch. There's no give on the stitches. Okay, so let's talk needles. The needles for a stretch, and I do have a whole video about needles, but the needle for a stretchy material would be either a jersey needle, if you're sewing jersey, or a ballpoint needle. And they have a slight difference, but not a whole heck of a lot. So you can look for either one of those. That's the type of needle, not the size of the needle. I'm talking about types of needles. Then for denim, there are denim needles. They're going to be sharper, as well as leather needles, which will be sharper as well to pierce through that kind of tightly woven or strong material. Then there's just universal needles. Those 3, the denim needle, well, 4, denim needle, leather needle, ballpoint or jersey needle, and a universal needle are the 4 that I mostly use. I don't think I really use too many other needles in most of the things that I do. And that's the types of the needles. For, let's say, a men's dress shirt, that type of cotton, I would just use a universal needle. For most things, I would just use a universal needle. But stretchy material, some sewing machines, if you find that you're sewing stretchy material and you're skipping stitches, try a ballpoint or a jersey needle and see if that makes a difference. Also, for needle sizes, I very rarely use an 80-12 because I very rarely sew like really thin fabrics, but 90-14 is what you would use for like a men's dress shirt, and then 116 is for denim, and I personally like to use a 110-18, and that's the highest size of needle that I found that you can fit into a standard sewing machine. Yeah, I've tried it in several, maybe not the minis, but I've tried it in these, especially like the heavy duty ones, and it'll fit a 110-18. So if you're having trouble going through, try buying a 110-18. They're not common. That's not a common size for typical sewing machines, but you can find them on Amazon. Oh, let's talk about top stitches. Yes, it's a top stitch because it's a decorative, not decorative as in it's a pattern, it's just decorative as in it's showing. When you are doing top stitches, you want to make your stitch length longer, okay? That's gonna make it look nice and clean. You don't necessarily have to change your tension unless you're sewing a lot of thicknesses of fabric. Then you can change your tension to loosen it up, which will be going towards the a higher number, not the highest, but a higher number. But for top stitches, you want a nice longer stitch, 4-5 stitch length in order to really make it very pronounced. You want it to look nice and pronounced on the outside of your garment. So yeah, try not to use like really close stitches. Sometimes you'll see those on men's dress shirts because the material is so thin. So the thinner the material, the less your top stitch length will be. And once you get into denim and thicker materials, then you really want a higher stitch length. The request was to talk about sewing machine settings and needles. And so I hope that helps you on your journey to as you're learning how to sew, and hopefully you're sewing right now, watching this as you're sewing. Definitely let me know in the comments below some other questions that you have, and I'll include them in my 60-minute challenges as I'm just chatting with you guys and seam ripping or whatever I'm doing during the challenge, and I can answer some of those questions along the way. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one. All right, bye.